While Stone Cold Steve Austin no longer wrestles, he continues to entertain fans with his podcasts, TV and film projects. Along the way he's made some friends and he's made some enemies too. Join us now as WrestleLamia looks at wrestlers Steve Austin is friends with and those he can't stand. Let's start off with friends. Number 1. Jim Ross. Legendary play-by-play man Jim Ross is typically mentioned as the Bionic Redneck's closest friend, and given their history together, it's little surprise. Ross helped guide Stone Cold's career, lending his own insight into the business to provide counsel to the rising star. Ross and Austin are more than friends in the business. Both men share a deep personal friendship that has lasted for decades. Number 2. Mick Foley. As we'll see later, Stone Cold didn't get along with everyone he worked with, but his work relationship alongside Mick Foley turned into an enduring friendship, with both men's struggles in WCW helping them bond. Coincidentally, both future WWE superstars journeyed to ECW briefly before finding lasting fame in the WWF. During their time together, both Austin and Foley worked hard to get themselves over and transform the WWF into the biggest wrestling promotion in the world. In a 2016 podcast, Austin praised Foley's work and told him he knew he was someone special. Number 3. Diamond Dallas Page. Like Mick Foley, Austin knew DDP long before either man became wrestling stars. As DDP recalls, he and Austin were roommates in Los Angeles, with Page playing babysitter to the ever-lively, i.e. drunk Austin. DDP and Austin's careers didn't cross paths for the most part, as opposed to Austin and Foley's, but they've remained friends and continue to be. Number 4. Chyna. Wrestling's ninth wonder of the world had a tumultuous life that was both blessed and cursed by her involvement in the WWF as Chyna. She and Stone Cold formed a close friendship during and after Chyna's run at the WWF, with Steve Austin supporting her throughout her troubled life. Austin spoke out publicly about what he saw as the WWE's poor treatment of her, with many accusing the company of getting rid of her because Laura's boyfriend Triple H cheated on her to pursue Stephanie McMahon, eventually marrying her. Austin praised her on his podcast after her tragic passing and spoke highly of her, recalling their friendship and that she was an absolute sweetheart. Number 5. Shawn Michaels. It'd be a mistake to say the Heartbreak Kid and Steve Austin were close friends during the Attitude Era, a time when Shawn's personal demons seemed ready to destroy him and his career. During this time, Shawn was anything but friendly to Austin, but after Michaels conquered his addictions, he became friends with the Texas Rattlesnake and credits Austin with helping him in his quest for sobriety. With both men being fans of wrestling and wildlife, they likely have much to discuss whenever they get together. Number 6. The Undertaker. Steve Austin is also friends with fellow Texas native Mark Calaway, aka The Undertaker. The Undertaker was already an established WWF main eventer when Austin entered the promotion, and Austin is grateful for The Undertaker helping him get over in the company, and perhaps most of all, for his rumoured involvement in Austin's WrestleMania 14 match against WWF champion Shawn Michaels. Legend has it that The Undertaker waited in gorilla position to ensure that Michaels did the time-honoured tradition and dropped the WWF Championship in the ring. Whether or not this is true, Michaels did drop the belt and it took Austin to the next level, establishing him as an enduring main eventer. Those were his friends, but let's have a look at his enemies. Number 1. Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett's 2018 WWE Hall of Fame induction caught some by surprise given the controversy surrounding his departure from the WWF all the way back in 1999 when Jarrett refused to drop the Intercontinental Championship before leaving the company unless Vince McMahon ponied up money Jarrett claimed was owed to him. Vince McMahon wasn't the only person who had bad blood with Double J, so did Stone Cold. Austin worked in the Memphis promotion run by Jeff's dad Jerry Jarrett and hated his time there. To make matters worse, Jeff cut a scathing promo where he blasted the Texas Rattlesnake for blaspheming by using Austin 3:16, accusing Austin of disrespecting the Bible passage John 3:16 in order to make money. In 2015, former WWF writer Vince Russo recalled the heat between the two. Steve was freaking furious. I mean, his bald head was blood red. As soon as Jeff came to the back, Steve was verbally all over him, holding nothing back. He gave me clear instructions to never book him with that son of a bitch. Steve then went on to tell me that even though it was the 316 promo that set him off, that his history with the Jarretts went way back when, as his boss Jerry Jarrett paid Steve so little money that he had to live on boiled potatoes when he worked under him in Memphis. So now, fast forward about 6 months later, things had cooled off by then, almost forgotten. Thinking Steve was over it, I made the mistake of trying to book him in an angle with Jeff. When we arrived at TV, Steve pulled me into a room and read me the riot act, citing everything he had told me verbatim 6 months prior. Number 2. Marc Mero. As we've discussed in previous videos, Marc Mero's WCW run as Johnny B. Bad caught Vince McMahon's attention, enough that McMahon offered Mero a guaranteed contract, which was unusual in the WWF at the time. This got Mero off on the wrong foot with several superstars, including Steve Austin. When Mero accidentally busted Austin open at the 1996 King of the Ring, things only got worse. Austin felt Mero was unworthy of a guaranteed contract, and he made his displeasure known backstage. It's also likely that Sable, Mero's wife at the time, didn't endear herself to Austin with her arrogant attitude towards other performers. Number 3. Ahmed Johnson. Big man Ahmed Johnson won the Intercontinental Championship at the 1996 King of the Ring, less than a year after his WWF debut. However, his victory reportedly turned sour, leading to Johnson having beef against Stone Cold Steve Austin. In 2018, Johnson appeared on MLW Radio's Why It Ended podcast, recalling his push in the WWF and the obstacles he faced reaching the very top of the promotion. Because of the things I heard from some of the boys about what Shawn was saying about handing over the belt to an African American and this and that and the other. Then when I won the Intercontinental belt, someone scratched, "Congratulations N-word on my car, on my rental car." Then you got some people saying it was Shawn, some saying it was Steve Austin. I don't know which one it was, but they were all too cowardly to stand up for it. Some wrestlers have called Ahmed's claim into question, and it's unclear whether or not there is any bad blood on Austin's part. However, you can be sure Ahmed won't be appearing on Austin's podcast, barring a diplomatic breakthrough. Number 4. Ted DiBiase. While Austin doesn't seem to blame the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase for the ringmaster gimmick Austin was saddled with in his WWF debut, DiBiase's criticism of Austin probably hasn't won him over. After managing Austin, DiBiase left the WWF for WCW, eventually becoming a Christian pastor. DiBiase criticized the Attitude Era's PG-13 antics, including Austin's use of Austin 316 to help get himself over. Austin seems to have taken the criticism personally. Now, the next couple of wrestlers might not be enemies of Austin, or in some cases they may have patched up their friendship. Number 1. Hulk Hogan. There's been talk of a Hulk Hogan-Steve Austin beef ever since fans learned the Rock Hollywood Hogan match at WrestleMania 18 was originally slated to be Stone Cold Steve Austin vs Hulk Hogan, and that is until Austin vetoed the idea. In 2017, Austin spoke on the Sam Roberts Wrestling podcast and discussed any animosity between him and the Hulkster. "Me and Terry don't trade phone calls, not the best of friends. We're not enemies, people say what they want to say or to try and stir up animosity. I don't hold anything against the guy. At the end of the day, we're two of the guys. We're pro wrestlers. We have a lot of things in common and a lot of things that aren't in common. But he does what he does, and I think that's what it is. That's all I can say." So in the case of Hogan and Austin, neither Hall of Famer has the other on the hit list, and I don't expect them to send them Christmas cards either. Number 2. Hardcore Holly. Bob Holly became friends with Austin after the two began traveling together between shows. However, as Austin's star soared in the WWF, Holly sensed something different about his friend and believes Austin's ego grew to the point that he wasn't the same person, and that Austin no longer treated his old friends the same way. Holly isn't the first wrestler who worked in the WWF to claim Austin's attitude changed as his fame grew, but he was one of the most prominent wrestlers to speak out. However, the two seem to have patched things up somewhat, as Holly appeared in a 2-part episode of Austin's podcast. And number 3. Owen Hart. While Stone Cold never claimed to hate Owen Hart, there was a great deal of tension between the two prior to Owen's tragic passing, an example of how a sudden death can prevent people from patching up their differences. While Owen Hart was a beloved backstage figure in the WWF, Steve wasn't one of his fans, at least not after the events of 1997 SummerSlam pay-per-view. Owen was known for his frequent pranks on other wrestlers, but Austin's dislike didn't stem from a prank, but from the in-ring incident after he suffered at 1997 SummerSlam when Hart botched a piledriver, injuring Austin's neck. While accidents do happen, Austin was upset because Owen only apologized to him once, and that was whilst he was in hospital. Austin never treated Owen the same way again, and Austin skipped Hart's funeral over Owen's tragic in-ring accident. But there you have it guys, a look at some of Stone Cold Steve Austin's closest friends, as well as his enemies. Which friend-enemy list should we look at next? CM Punk's? Hulk Hogan's? The Rock's? Let us know in the comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.